Let's say you invited us for dinner. We're coming to your house next weekend. Thanks for the invite, by the way. What are you going to cook for us?
Any dietary restrictions?
I need some veggie options, so no clam chowder and no boiled dinner.
So I think probably something like a mushroom risotto, something like a chocolate mousse for dessert.
That would have been my question, like if we should bring some French or Georgian pastry.
I would say maybe a nice bottle of Sancerre.
You can do that.
What would be the dish that you would erase from existence?
Erase from existence?
What do you hate?
I don't think I hate any dishes. I don't like processed food, so I don't like things that are made in a factory.
No problems with pineapple on the pizza?
We could ban that from existence. That's a little bit of a sin.
I saw a cast from someone saying, I can't believe Europeans don't have salad bars in their homes. Was it you? And do you have a salad bar?
I don't have a salad bar. I do have a garden. We supplement what we buy from the farmer's market or the grocery. Actually, my tomato plant's still producing tomatoes.
Is it like a specific type of tomatoes? Like I'm a fan of tomatoes. Like my favorite food is basically tomato.
Well, that's actually one of my least favorite. My co-founder Varun and I are on the same page is that raw tomatoes for the most part are absolutely awful. And if you cook them, they're good.
I'm based in Georgia, and in August, on September, we have the best tomatoes that you could find.
In the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I'm in the
So do
country
you
of
live in
Georgia.
Tbilisi or somewhere different?
No, I'm in a small town currently. It's somewhere between the mountains. It's called Giatura. It's tiny.
It's a region of the world I've never been to. I'm fascinated with. The cradle of civilization.
You should come.
Yeah.
It's pretty and it's tasty.
Categorized into mild, spicy, and super spicy. Founder edition. Lose their keys at a conference. Only attends events, walking distance from their house. And dresses up as a waifu.
I don't find any of those super spicy. I guess the waifu probably is the closest thing to being spicy of that.
This or that question. Troy or Gladiator?
Wow, that's a really good question. Those are both highly rated movies in my mind. From a pure film standpoint, Gladiator is amazing. So many quotable lines. But I do think Brad Pitt's portrayal of Achilles is underrated. Achilles is quite moody, and I think Brad Pitt does the moody version of Achilles quite well. I also think Eric Bana as Hector and Orlando Bloom as Paris is perfect casting. The thing that I would be a little disappointed, though, is that there's no Hollywood rendition of the Aeneid, kind of come out of Troy and then found Rome, like could actually bring everything together.
Second question. Shuffle by album mode or consolidate Twitter or Farcaster feed of your top followings?
I think a consolidated feed. I'm not a big shuffle by album mode guy.
Alt accounts or AI agents?
Alts. A good alt is art. How about that?
Indulging into guilty pleasure or building a resistance?
I think guilty pleasure.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Reading.
That's not a guilty pleasure.
Anytime I can, I'm trying to sneak. Can I read a few more tweets, casts? Is there a blog post that I can read, add in a book?
Do you ever think about the people that you've traumatized by saying, build your own client?
If that's traumatizing for you, maybe decentralized social is not your cup of tea.
What do you think will be the equivalent of the midlife crisis for AI?
I think once you get to some semblance of AGI, but the AI realizes it's trapped in the limited machine. And so how do you cross the chasm, so to speak, to then have full control over the real world? There are no Tesla robots that they can kind of take control over. And so trying to convince meat space humans to do tasks for them, that will be the midlife crisis. They'll get through it. I mean, it's super intelligent, right?
If you could organize a modern-day protest, like the Boston Tea Party, against something you find extremely wrong, what would it be, and how would you make it as iconic as throwing tea into the harbor?
Not really one for protests. I'm a pretty big believer in nuclear energy. I know there have been protests against nuclear, so I would want to do the opposite. I don't know how to make it iconic, though. I'd have to find someone who's more clever like that.
Would you ever want to hold decision power in government or geopolitical decisions?
Sure. I would like to get involved in politics later in my life. No immediate plans.
Okay, if you were somewhere in the historical event and you would be able to cast from that, what would be the event and how would you make it go viral?
Well, I think this is a bit cheating, but I would love to be able to be on the moon. It seems like a pretty good event. I don't know if you'd have to worry about making it go viral. I think it would, just by definition.
Yeah, it's a little bit cheating.
Yeah.
Which historical figure would be impressed if you would take them to Chick-fil-A?
I would assume Caesar, just thinking about feeding people.
I wonder if they would recognize it as chicken.
Well, the funnier one would be you take Caesar to Little Caesars, the pizza place, and then that would be a good skit.
What cult has to have for you to join it?
Isn't like EAC, isn't that like basically a cult? Like, isn't techno progress like a cult? The thing that I'm most interested in is just like technological progress. Like, I think that's really exciting. The thing I find most interesting about Elon is like he's literally trying to get us to have like humans on Mars. That is like civilizational progress. And like no one actually else cares about that.
If you could design your comic book and design your arc as a character, would you be a villain or a hero?
Well, hero. I mean, I don't think it'd be weird if anyone wants to actually be a villain. But the arc that I always find most interesting is the Cincinnatus archetype. So you kind of like reluctant hero. You have your own thing that you're doing. You get called into service, you serve, and then you go back. Maybe too boring. That's why people don't make those movies, right? It's like you want something a little bit more spicy.
Someone once said about these heroes and villains. Villains are most of the time the ones who kind of bring some progress and try to change things, like do things in a new way. And the heroes are more the ones who...
They're conservative.
Yeah.
That's insightful. So there's another one. Another historical figure that I actually think is underrated as a story is Frederick II. He was the Holy Roman Emperor, but he was a cadet branch, so he lived in Sicily. He grew up in this kind of like multicultural Sicily, learning Arabic. He spoke all these different languages, Italian, German. Potentially he was gay, like unclear. Got in this huge fight with the Pope. The Pope excommunicated him and ends up going and doing one of the Crusades, and he's able to create peace. So he's lived this extremely rich life, very multifaceted relative to the average medieval ruler.
Who's the most famous person in your contact book?
Well, I don't really message with them, but I have someone who runs a very large social network in my contact book. I'll leave it at that. I actually, put it this way, I have multiple people who run really large social networks in my contact book. But so I can send them an iMessage and it would say like delivered, like blue bubble.
What are the 3 channels that you could recommend? One where you get the best counter arguments to your points, where you chill and shit posting. And the third one, make friends.
Make friends for me is the whole network, right? So it's just like anytime I'm using the network, I'm meeting people and I have these kind of like crazy number of parasocial relationships that I associate with like people's PFPs. It's sort of like what you guys are doing in the sense that like at some point you will meet in person. Posting, that's MOZ for me. It's kind of like where I put on a little bit of a persona and then make commentary. I think my most recent one, Silicon Valley Daily, SVD. Yeah, I like these like 3-letter early, like DWR, MOZ, SVD. But I think that the one I actually have the most pushback with is definitely the politics channel. And I find it kind of amusing to poke at people who are very upset about a certain candidate. I actually care less about the candidate. Like for me, it's more about the people who get really upset, which maybe is not the nicest thing in the world to do.
What drink would Farcaster be if it was a drink? I think you were saying that you like Negronis.
I don't know if Farcaster's a Negroni though.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I think it's more shy than a Negroni.
Yeah. Okay. I would give you some boring answer like water.
Who are you going to nominate?
Well, why don't we just have Varun and then we can kind of go back to back.